Good morning, Janet Gorant here from tribesober.com. I hope there's someone there. This is always the scary part. If you're there, say hi please. So today I'm going to be talking about grey area drinking. The reason why I picked on this topic was that someone wrote to me, a lady wrote to me, and she said, I've been looking at your new website, it's really nice, and I looked at the membership program, which looks awesome, and I was thinking of signing up, but then I decided that I don't really need this support because I'm only a grey area drinker. So that got me thinking, particularly the only bit, and I thought I would do some research into grey area drinking. I had a vague idea what it was, and I'm quite clued up on what an almost alcoholic is, so I thought, well, it's probably that, but I think it might be just before you get to the almost alcoholic. So today I want to talk about what is grey area drinking. Let's be clear about that, and let's be clear about why it matters as well. And how do you know if you're a grey area drinker? And finally, if you are and you're worried about it, then what can you do about it? So those are the 3 points that I want to cover. So let's start off with what is grey area drinking? Well, I always talk about alcoholism as a spectrum. I can envisage a line, and at one end of that line you've got the non-drinker. At the other end of the line, you've got the stigmatized alcoholic. It's the homeless old man in the park clutching his bottle of scotch. And of course, we look at that alcoholic and we think, well, I'm not like him, I don't have a problem. But the thing is, in between these two extremes, there's the rest of the population, basically. There's many, many millions of people. So if you can work your way down that spectrum, I think that, we start off with the non-drinkers and then we move on to the social drinkers, the real social drinkers. I used to call myself a social drinker, but in my head that meant that, I was drinking a bottle of wine a night and more when I went out and more at the weekends, and I was a social drinker. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the person that will have a glass of champagne at the wedding, maybe a glass of red wine with a very special meal. But really, alcohol isn't on their radar. That's what I call a social drinker. So let's creep up our spectrum a little bit, and then we'll find the grey area drinkers. And I'm going to give you some signs, some indications whether or not you are a grey area drinker in a moment. But the thing is, you've got your grey area, big area. And then the next category, in my mind, is the almost alcoholic. And the almost alcoholic, it is a thing. It was identified by 2 doctors that wrote a book about it in 2012 called Almost Alcoholic. It's really interesting. So, and then of course you move on to the alcoholic. So I think it's important to recognise if you are a grey area drinker, because you might need to pull back. So let's try and explore this a little bit. We always need to remember that alcohol is an addictive drug. It's a legal drug, but it's an addictive drug. And we need to treat it, I don't want to say with respect, we need to treat it with caution. Because for some of us, in fact for 20% of social drinkers, we will become dependent over the years. But I think if we're aware of that, and if we take regular breaks, then, we can keep it in control. But for those of us like me and, many people in our community, once you've crossed a line, you can't kind of be that social drinker anymore. You need to stop. So how do we know if we're a grey area drinker? So if I can see there's some people in our community watching this, and I know that they've given up drinking, some of them. So if you have given up drinking, then please cast your mind back and think about the days when you were drinking. And as you listen to my 10 warning signs, just write in the comments if that resonates with you. Were you, doing that thing that I'm warning you about? Oh, Lynette, there you are. I was getting worried then because there was no comments. I thought, oh goodness, I'm not even recording, but I think I am, yes. 5 minutes in. So let's go through our 10 signs. So you might be a high achiever who exercises regularly, got a really good job, a family that you're nurturing and keeping on track. But somehow the drinking issue, it's at the back of your mind. You don't often think about it, but if you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes because you have been drinking the night before, feeling a bit anxious, or maybe the morning you feel a bit kind of foggy and you're struggling to get all the breakfast and dash out to work, it's there. You've got this niggling thought, oh, I wonder if I'm drinking too much. And I wonder if, I think a lot of people, they're so into wellness these days and health, it's all gluten-free this and organic that and yoga and meditation, but they're still drinking. So a lot of people like this these days, they're beginning to think, does it really fit in with my lifestyle? Number 2. So number 1, niggling thoughts about your drinking. Number 2, you're nowhere near rock bottom, are you? And you wouldn't dream of going to AA. But neither are you really one of these purely social drinkers that I talked about. You're not that person that only has a drink, once a month or something. So in fact, AA can be counterproductive, because when I went to AA, I heard all the stories there, and I remember thinking, well, I'm not that bad, I don't drink in the morning, I haven't lost my job, I haven't, got a drunken driving problem. So, even though you're nowhere near rock bottom, if you're thinking about alcohol, then it could be an issue for you. And are you one of these people that can stop drinking for a while, but it's difficult for you to stay stopped, if that makes sense? I was always doing dry January, and I would think, okay, I've proved now I don't have a problem with alcohol, where's my drink come February the 1st? And then I would more than make up for what I hadn't drunk in January. So if you can stop for a while, but you're missing it and you're aware of the drink that you're not having, then that's another warning sign. Number 4. Your drinking probably doesn't look problematic from the outside. And in fact, if you say to your friends, oh, I'm worried about my drinking, then, they'll probably say, oh, don't be silly, you don't have a problem. And in fact, I remember there was a celebrity, I think she's a singer here in South Africa, called Zahara, I think. And she put on social media that she was worried about her drinking. She was drinking a bottle of wine a night. She was thinking about giving up. And there was a huge sensation on social media, because she had lots of followers, and people were saying, you're crazy, you don't have a problem. Everybody drinks a bottle of wine a night. And thinking about this, everybody drinks a bottle of wine a night. It reminded me of when my son was at school, he'd come home from school and he'd say, oh, Mum, everybody's got this Xbox, I want one, so, and it's not true. If I went to his class and talked to them all, I would find that they didn't all have Xboxes. So it's not true that everybody drinks a bottle of wine a night, but you could well be in a circle of friends that do, because we tend to pick our friends, don't we, to fit in with our own behaviour and our norms, because we enjoy hanging out with them and drinking. So that's another warning sign. Your drinking doesn't look problematic from the outside, but still you've got this feeling. And let's face it, even if you're only drinking a glass of wine a night, if you're worried about it, then it's a problem. The 5th point is that you feel like you've got this internal conflict going on, because your conscious mind says, oh, I'm not sure drinking is adding anything to my life, I'm fed up with this alcohol, want to drop it. But then your subconscious is saying, oh, but how will I cope, how will I socialise, I'm going to lose all my friends, blah blah blah. So you've got this conflict. and that's not a nice feeling. In fact, it feels a bit like anxiety, and you might well reach for a glass of wine to calm that anxious feeling. The sixth warning sign is if you look forward to that glass of wine at the end of the day just a little bit too much, and if you find yourself in that trap, I remember still being at work and looking at my watch and thinking, 4 o'clock, okay, it'd be time for a drink soon. And if you're in that kind of trap, it's probably because daily drinking will put you into a mild state of withdrawal permanently, every day. Because let's remember, alcohol is a drug. So you'll be subconsciously craving that drink. And that's why when you have that first sip, it's lovely, because it's taking you out of your withdrawal. Number 7. Has your consumption kind of crept up over the years, over the decades? Mine certainly did. The pattern seems to be in our community that people drink in their 20s and their 30s. It's kind of more or less in control, apart from maybe the odd binge. But they're drinking socially with their friends. And then as we get into our 40s and 50s, it seems to change. And very often, in my case, it was true that one glass of wine will turn into a bottle of wine every evening. And we'll be drinking often alone, and drinking because, not because we're socializing and having fun, but because we're using it as a coping mechanism. We're feeling stressed, we're feeling tired, we're feeling down. So we'll use that wine to try and change our state. And it might do for a short time, but then there'll be a bigger price to pay at the end of it. So when you switch from social use to coping mechanism and the levels are rising, then that's a big warning sign. Number 8. If you drink alone to relieve loneliness, boredom, that's definitely a warning sign. And I always remember talking to a lady that said she was worried about her drinking because she found that more and more she was turning down social invitations, because she just wanted to stay at home with her bottle of wine and her Netflix, and she felt she was in a cocoon. Was that a problem, she said to me, because she actually enjoyed that. But, it sounds quite cozy, doesn't it? But in effect, she was drinking at least 7 bottles of wine a week, which is going to damage her mental and physical health. So I think because what you're doing if you're in that loop is you're forming a relationship with that alcohol. And that's why we have our kind of goodbye to letters thing going on, because I think alcohol, for some of us, it's like an abusive lover, and we need to get it out of our life. And that's why writing a goodbye letter really kind of draws a line under it. So if you want to get inspired by some goodbye letters, just go to tribesober.com, click on the inspiration tab, and you'll find lots of letters there, and they're really inspiring, and they make you think. Number 9, fairly obvious one, drinking and driving. If you find yourself drinking and driving, that means that the alcohol has altered your mental state so much that you're not being sensible anymore. What's that thing about the prefrontal cortex? Is the mom of your brain. Have a few drinks, mom moves out, and crazy aunt moves in, and she says, of course you can drink and drive, nothing wrong. So drinking and driving, not good, another warning sign. And last but not least, do you chase the buzz? I always chase the buzz. And the buzz, by which I mean that kind of nice little endorphin spike that you get from alcohol, research tells us it actually only lasts 20 minutes, and then you kind of come down again, just like you do from any drug. And those of us that are in that loop, the grey area drinkers, the almost alcoholics, we want that nice buzz. We want to prolong it. So what do? Of course, we go and get another drink. Whereas a moderate drinker, a real social drinker, wouldn't really do that. They'd just have their drink and carry on the conversation on whatever they were doing. But we're always chasing the buzz, and we need another glass to maintain it. So that's my 10 warning signs. Actually, I've got a number 11. So, of course, if you are drinking more than the low risk limits, and let's be clear about this, the low risk limits are tiny. They say that if you drink more than a bottle and a half of wine or more than 6 beers a week, then you are putting your health at risk, you know, and it's a big risk. The evidence is really stacking up these days. We've got alcohol now linked to 7 different types of cancer, to more than 60 diseases. 170 people a day die here in South Africa from alcohol-related causes, and globally that's 3 million people. It's massive. So what can you do? If a few of these warning signs resonated with you, then and you want to make a change there, then what can you do? Well, I've picked out 3 things. I think it's good, especially as we get older, to question ourselves, you know, what do we really want out of life? Because I think when we're younger, aren't we, we're put in these tracks, you know, we go to school, we go to college, we get a good job, we get married, we have children, and we're always kind of nurturing and giving, and there's not that much time for us and for us to reflect, what do we really want? And as a grey area drinker, it's unlikely that alcohol will destroy your life, but it's very likely that it's preventing you from reaching your potential. And you want to reach your potential. And the trouble with drinking is that it wastes our time, doesn't it? You know, you've just got to think, you know, I think back to my drinking days, I'd get home, have a few glasses of wine, and that was it. You know, there was no way I could do anything else in the evening apart from slump in front of TV, because I'd drained my motivation, I was tired then. So it steals our time, our precious time. And let's remember, we can always, if we lose all our money, we've got a chance of getting some of it back, but losing our time, we never get that back. And if you're not sure what you want from life, and I know it's not easy to suddenly get into that mindset if you've been on this kind of hamster wheel for decades, and I would advise you to get some coaching, because a coaching is a thinking partner, and she or he will give you space to think through, what am I here for? What do I really want? What is my purpose? What will give me real satisfaction? And if you want some ideas, I just want to mention, I hope some of you, we've got some members watching this, I hope you're coming to the Zoom cafe this afternoon, because we're all going to share our hobbies. You know, what do we do with this time that we've saved now that we're not drinking? And if anyone's watching this before, 2:30 South African time, you're not a member and you'd like to come along as a guest, just email me at janet@tribesober.com and we'll send you a little guest invite for the Zoom cafe. Number two is kind of building on from number 1, really. I'd like you to think about, what can you add into your life? Because we tend to think, if someone says, oh, you've got to give up alcohol, then we think that we're losing something, don't we? And in fact, if any of you have listened to the podcast that came out at 10 o'clock this morning, there's a great clip at the beginning by my guest, and he said, what you've got to do is move from motivation to inspired, from being motivated to being inspired. And I really like this. I haven't thought about it before. But for example, if a doctor tells you you've got to stop drinking or you'll die, you know, then you're motivated maybe because you want to stay alive, but you're fairly grumpy about it. But what you need to do to make this a success is to feel inspired. Yes, think this is something that I want. So what can you add? You're not losing stuff here, but you're gaining stuff. So what can you add into your life? And I thought this was a good opportunity to read you my favourite quote, my second favourite. It's not the one about meaning in your life, so I'm always reading. This is a different one. So listen to this. When we say the words alcohol abuse, we tend to mean that we abuse alcohol. But in fact, alcohol abuses us. It takes and it takes and it lies and it lies, and we give up everything rather than lose it. But in fact, there is nothing we need it for, and there is nothing it won't take. I think that's really true. So rather than let alcohol take from you, why don't you start adding things into your life? Ditch the booze, even if it's only for a while, and think about what can you add. Because when you stop drinking, you'll get a lot of clarity in your mind. There's so many things, whether it's a fitness activity or whether it's creativity or whether it's learning something. There's so much choice out there. So don't let alcohol kind of shrink your life, because that's what it does. And number 3, the third thing that you can do, of course, is you can get some support. Now, grey area drinkers rarely go to AA. It just doesn't occur to them. And in fact, it can be counterproductive. I've already mentioned my example of trotting along there, and I left thinking, well, I'm not in that league. I don't have a problem because I'm not drinking in the morning, so I'm probably fine, and carry on drinking. But these days, there's many alternatives to AA, of course, because of the internet. So we've got our tribe, tribesober.com. And if you join our tribe as a member, then obviously we connect you with our awesome community of people that are changing their relationship with alcohol. Many of them already have, and now they're still in the community because they want to help others. But membership of Tribe Sober will also qualify you to join our 30-day alcohol-free challenge, and that is online and community support to get you through 30-day alcohol-free. And I would say that if you sail through these 30 days and you don't even think about alcohol, then you should probably cancel your membership because you don't need us. But if you're struggling and if you can't make 30 days without alcohol, or if you just about can, but it was a real struggle, then it's probably best that you stick with us for a while and find out about the awesome support that we have. So in conclusion, I just think we need to stop this rock bottom thinking. You don't have to lose everything before you decide to make a change. We can step off that slippery slope at any time and live our lives to the full. So that's me. I hope that's been interesting for you. Let's have a look at the comments. My favourite bit. Oh, hi Lynette. Hello Irene. Yes, so here's Lynette. There she was, the healthy lifestyle, doing yoga, meditation, still drank. My husband used to be so confused. Yes, I think we are quite confusing to the people that know us well, aren't they? I was exactly the same, yeah. Lots of internal. Yeah, prime example of the warning signs. Yeah. Me too, I think all 10. I didn't used to drink and drive actually, because I'm from the UK and we're so brainwashed not to do that. I never did that, but definitely the other 9. Yes, Annika, drinking takes up time and energy and productivity. I know, it's such a revelation, isn't it, when we stop. I never expected to have all that creativity and energy. I just expected, to be more healthy, but I wasn't expecting the many benefits. Drank away my motivation, yeah. Hi Louise, drinking wine while cooking, watching, easily drink, yeah, absolutely Louise. I think we've all been there. Yeah, I love that motivation to inspired, and I hope you've listened to the podcast, Lynette. It's cool. Nothing we need alcohol for takes everything. Yeah, I think both Lynette and myself and many others in the community, our only regrets is that we didn't do this years ago. What were we thinking? Anyway, if there's any young women watching this, just, smarten up, get the program long before we did. Okay, so I'm off. Thank you so much, and I'll see some of you at the Zoom cafe. Please listen to the podcast, which was out 10 a.m. this morning. I've rebranded it, so now it's called Tribe Sober, Inspiring an Alcohol-Free Life. And I put that word inspiring in there after doing my podcast interview with Adam. Okay, guys, see you later. Bye.